So yes, welcome. My name's Mark Willis, economist at Bromford, and I'm here with Doug Jones from Eliq. We're here to kind of explore some kind of opportunities really about how we can help each other gain insight into our strategic objectives. So one of those is proactive maintenance, which is all about using data to try and form a predictive and cost-efficient way to keep our homes safe and in good order. So the ultimate goal of that is to obviously improve the longevity and the quality of our homes, and obviously off the back of that, the customer experience of living in them. But the first part of that is all about accessing and using data to form insights. And our connected homes agenda, which is all about using technology to reveal data insights about the usage, performance, and the requirements of a home, trying to form insights to an accuracy that we just don't have at the moment. As I said, I'm joined by Doug here from Eliq. So welcome, Doug.
Thanks for a great introduction. I'm really happy to be here and be speaking to you all. So yeah, Eliq, we're a software as a service provider based out of Sweden. We focus on energy insights. Our mission is net zero by democratizing energy data. Those are big, lofty words, so hard to turn into practice. But what do we actually mean by that, and why do we do what we do? Well, climate change is a big challenge of our lifetimes, and a lot of people don't realize, but more than 20% of global carbon emissions actually come from household energy usage. And that's an area that we can actually affect and actually change, all of us in our day-to-day lives. And that's, every little counts in this fight against climate change. Becoming even more important, I'm sure everyone here, everyone watching has been affected in the last few years by the energy crisis. Prices are going up all across Europe. We work in 14 different countries. There's not been a single place that has affected by these price changes. So it's becoming more and more urgent to address these challenges, because this could all happen anytime. And if I take that into a sort of the UK context, so I've been with Eliq for 4 or 5 years now. The average UK home is now paying £500 more for their energy than they were when I started at Eliq. That is a huge change. But the real challenge and why Eliq exists is people don't understand enough about their energy. Like, your average person, me even, like, you don't understand what a kilowatt hour is. Like, how can you do anything about it? What does it mean? And how can I actually change how I use my energy to have a more efficient or a warmer home? Yeah, so that's where Eliq comes in. So we like to say that we're experts in making sense of energy data. So we've been around for about 10 years, working with utility companies across Europe. There are several in the UK that we work with, and plenty in the rest of Europe as well. And we work with them to help provide apps to their customers, really make sense of that energy data. We're embedded in a number of utility apps around Europe.
So what does the product actually do? So it's kind of, the broad concept is trying to help people understand their energy use better, right?
Exactly, yeah. So we have a kind of suite of energy insights products. So it's all tools aimed around helping someone understand how they're using their energy, what's using the most energy in their home, and but crucially, what action that they can actually take to change that and take control of it. And yeah, so we've been working with energy companies primarily for the last several years. But what's changing now, and why I'm here today talking to you, is open energy. So anyone that saw my LinkedIn promos before this session will have seen me talking the word open energy. So open energy is here, but what is it? So open energy is basically different countries around Europe. There is now regulation that energy data, particularly data from smart meters, advanced meters, needs to be made available for anyone to access with the customer's consent, so that people outside of traditional utility space, the gatekeeper of that data, can use it to help their customers and do different things. I got introduced to Mike by Luke Loveridge at Proplo, and we got chatting, and we realized that there's quite a lot of potential for using energy data in the social housing space, and particularly some big problems that can be addressed with, we think, using that data.
So, and how are you looking to solve some of those big problems that you framed at the beginning? So we've got climate change, we've got skyrocketing energy bills, and we've also got people not really understanding how energy use affects their bills. So how are you solving those problems? What's the mechanics of the product?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you framed it pretty well there, actually. Kind of matches what I put on here. So if I frame the kind of 3 problem areas that I think open energy data could really help solve, it's exactly as you said. Like, customers need help to understand their energy consumption and either save energy, balance their energy spend so they can have a warm home. It's that, social housing providers like Bromford, you're spending, lots of money on retrofitting properties, but yeah, exactly as you framed at the start, like you need more data to help make these kind of decisions and drive changes. Certainly, there's increasing pressures for sustainability reporting, and we want to help on the climate agenda too. So yeah, to your question, sorry, what actually is the solutions? We've got kind of two different solutions that I want to talk to you about today. One is an energy insights app for customers, and the other is our asset overview platform, which is more for sort of back office and getting access to that great data.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think a good way to frame this conversation is kind of what's in it for everyone kind of thing. There's obviously three major parties to this. There's Eliq, there's Bromford and the wider social housing sector, but there's also the customers that live in those homes too. So yeah, let's start with the customer.
Absolutely.
What's in it for them?
So for the customer, like as an energy consumer, I want to understand my bill's gone up by like 500 quid in the last few years. What can I actually do about that? So what does the product actually look like? So we offer a white labeled mobile application. So that means that it's a mobile application EV branded, so it would look exactly like it was from Bromford. They're called the Bromford app in the app stores. And these are apps that have a variety of these different energy insights that customers can look at and understand and then take action on, track that action, and ultimately save energy. And we've got some really good stats on how much people actually save, which I can come on to in a minute. But I guess like the big question I always get asked is actually like, how does this actually work outside of a utility? How are people actually connecting that data? And so this is where the open energy part comes in. We call it Eliq. So basically we have the ability through a really nice like consent flow to capture customer consent to connect their smart meter data or advanced meter data into our platform to then power all these energy insights. So it's like a no hardware solution. We just manage all the consent. We've got a variety of different consent methods. We could like flow the customer through, capture that consent and get their data into the platform. But your question is, what's in it for the customer? What do they actually get once they're in? Firstly, it's about taking control of your spending. So we educate customers on where they're overall spending their energy. We try and compare them to other people. We try and also let them set a budget. So we can set weekly, monthly budgets, and you can keep track of how you're doing on those budgets. We've got intelligent forecasts of how much we would expect that you're going to use in the next week, month, so people can really make a plan, see what they can do. But then like in the really sort of clever stuff, it's the insights. And this is our kind of our core functionality. This is, we offer this with a lot of people, such as like, how do you compare? You see, how do you compare to similar homes? So for example, a bit of gamification. It's been proven academically that if you compare people to other people, they're more likely to take action on their energy consumption. It's sort of a deep-rooted sort of subconscious thing to try and want to John down the street. It's using less than you. People get competitive and they want to try and change. And we've also got this ability, which I think is really powerful, which is to break down what consumes the most in the home. Breaking down with good accuracy, just by looking at the consumption patterns of the data, how much energy is being spent on your heating, being spent on your cooking, your fridge, whatever it is. And then this feeds into actionable tips and advice that people can do. So we take that and we make it personalized, and we say, right, if you shifted your consumption of this to this hour, you would save exactly this amount, those kinds of things. So we can really help people. And to your question, like what's in it for the customer? So we've done a few studies on this. We've done academic studies with some customers. We've had customers who've run their own studies, and we've seen savings up to 9% on energy bills just by having insight into your consumption and knowing what you can do. I had to do a calculation for here of like what that would calculate, like looking at like Ofgem's like median house index, and it comes out to about 13, 14 quid per month for an average like 2 or 3 bed semi in the UK. Like it's not necessarily like loads, but actually into the sense of like where you could shift that money to, where you could balance that. And maybe that's not 13 quid that they stop spending. Maybe it's 13 quid that spent more on heating instead, which is, I think, really, really powerful for a customer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that control element, isn't it? And actually really understanding where you're spending your money, how you might be able to still do the same things, but, using your energy slightly differently throughout the day, and then can then affect and free up some energy use somewhere else. Yeah, no, that really does make sense. So they get this kind of tangible cost benefit or allocation benefit potentially. What's the cost to them? Is this quite an invasive kind of exercise? Do you need to go into their homes? How does it work? You said you're a software business.
Yeah, exactly. It's pure software. From the customer's point of view, it's just a mobile app like anything else on their phone. So all they need is a phone or even just internet access. It can be web-based. If not, there's no hardware. It doesn't need anything being put into anyone's home. So it's just an app that would be offered by, I guess in this case, Romford or the customers. So no cost for them.
So it's a business to business model.
Exactly, yeah. So we work on a business to business model, right? We would offer it to you, Romford, and then you offer it to your customers, that B2B to C model.
So I guess that leads nicely on. So what would be in it for Bromford to kind of?
Good question. So I mean, obviously, apart from like the benefits that it would bring to your customers, and obviously the associated benefits that you would get from that, I guess there's a few things. This app could be branded like it's Bromford, right? It can be your app as a contact point for your customers. So these apps are super highly customizable. You can use them to promote other campaigns that you're doing. You can link out to other things. You can embed other connected home products that you're working on. If you've got like humidity sensors, whatever, can embed data from that into these apps really, really easily. You can connect for self-service. You can kind of use this in other ways to sort of really reduce the sort of contact or increase the contact, depends how you want to do it. Use contact in the right way. So I guess is the best way of framing that. But I think probably the most powerful, the best thing about this is actually, it's all data. It's what you can learn about your customers and then the actions that you can actually take for those customers. So part of like being in the app, the customer will feed in a fairly good amount of information about their property, some of which I'm sure you already know, but some of which I'm sure you probably don't. You'll learn things about their consumption patterns. You'll know like what they're doing. And it's also really powerful in terms of like things like risk. So we've got another platform, this is a sort of back end where you can basically see, as long as we've captured the consent in the right way, the customer can share that data and it all goes through to you. You could see an aggregate of all of that energy data, and you could dig into each individual property and see the same data that the customer sees. So you could see, for example, if you want to take a risk example, you could see an alert when a customer has their heating's not working for a certain amount of time, or they've turned their heating off. And that's a chance for you to act on that and do something. You can also see the properties that are consuming the most in an area or the least. You can work out the properties where they're spending the highest proportion of their bills on heating and take action on that for your retrofit programs. So I think data is the real name of the game.
Definitely seems big potential for kind of like that rich insight, particularly at a really granular level as well. There's lots of kind of issues that we know are going on, people struggling with energy bills, but actually the level of insight in terms of where exactly are those problems, don't quite know that accurately. This could definitely be a potential tool to help kind of fill that gap.
Yeah, absolutely. Like one example I was thinking of earlier, we're doing a trial with a insurance company in Nordics, for example, where they're looking at frost damage for certain properties so we've got an alert. It just triggers for them to say this property, the heating is below the expected levels we'd expect it to be, and the temperature's low. Someone should take an action. That kind of level is just really, really powerful. I think also like in terms of what's in it for Bromford, the other aspect that I think is quite cool about this is the scalability. It doesn't require hardware in anyone's home. It just needs a promotional campaign to get people to, connect to the apps, and you can have thousands of people connected really quickly without needing to go and put expensive hardware in homes.
You've touched on a couple of pilots that you're running and have then kind of explored how easily scalable it could be. How would we go about starting a pilot? What kind of scale do you need?
Great question. Yeah, Mike and I have been talking about this a bit before. We're pretty open to do proof of value on this. We want to see if you get value out of this and your customers get value out of this. We can spin these apps up like really quickly. It's iterable software from our side, so it's really, really quick. We could do this on Mike and I were talking about doing it on a sort of place. For example, take 800 homes or something like that, run it for a few months, track the benefits that come out of that, set some KPIs, and then carry from there. This works on any kind of scale, really. Like we typically work with like really big utilities. We've got millions and millions of properties on the platform, so we can start small, but it's all about proving the benefits, really. Yeah, so we've been doing this. Maybe some people have even seen it. I don't know. I hope you have. Doing a trial in Oxfordshire. So this is a trial being funded by DESNZ with Oxford County Council, and we're working with they're called Metis. So this is like using our Energy Insights apps for anyone who lives in the Oxfordshire area. If anyone's listening who does live in Oxfordshire, check it out. It's called the Energy Saver app. So you can sign up, you get all these great energy insights, and then with Metis, the really cool part here is actually that it basically offering a kind of a win-win solution to get retrofit items sets into homes. So things like solar panels, heat pumps, and batteries are offered on a subscription model with a smart tariff that helps people save energy immediately. So actually, basically, you get solar panels on your roofs with no upfront cost. We've had some good press recently in the Times, the BBC, which has been really fun. So yeah, we're always up for piloting and trying things out. And happy to talk to anyone that wants to talk about that afterwards. So Mike and I have had some chats already about that.
And what kind of early results have you seen? Have you got any kind of insight from this, or is this too early to tell?
The insights from this one that are really cool. I have to check the latest numbers, but this is, I guess, less in a social housing context, more from a sort of local authority context. But they've, in terms of the adoption of the retrofit programs, it's much higher than they would be expected. So they're getting a good number of people actually getting solar panels on their roofs and using this energy like insights app to actually engage them to do that, which has been, and the pilot's been extended, so we're running across the summer now. People are, yes, well, you see it on that headline there, it's people saving hundreds of pounds off their bills. It's nice to make an impact.
Brilliant. And in terms of that, I think you covered off really nicely kind of the kinds of impacts that you've seen, particularly in reducing bills for customers, and the kind of the rich data insights that are possible in the back end of this software. What kind of impacts have you seen in terms of carbon emissions savings?
So I forgot to mention it actually, but in the asset overview tool, so all that data is actually available. We have an export function, so you can export the data, the energy data, straight into like ESG reporting friendly, like CSV format. So you can kind of map your scope 2, scope 3 emissions, things like that. We try to measure the difference in carbon. Obviously, you need to know the grid mix of the energy data that came through. We track a nice stat energy. We talk about this every month. So we know those stats I said earlier about how much energy we could save per solar that's active. And so we kind of work out for ourselves what size town in Sweden we've powered each month, which is kind of fun. And we're working out the carbon footprints. But obviously, you can kind of do the logic. If you save 9%, that's a reduction in carbon for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's a large part of our carbon footprint is obviously the energy that is used powering our homes. Absolutely.
Do you have reporting obligations on that?
I don't know about obligations, but we definitely do report on it, particularly in relation to sort of ESG requirements linked to sustainability loans and that kind of thing. So as well as obviously the environmental impact, there's potential monetary savings for us as well on kind of reduction in interest rates, etc.
We can also do things around like EPC ratings. We can do EPC calculations across properties based on energy consumption data as well, which I'm sure is I know that's one of your targets, the EPC by 2028.
Yes.
I mean, to get that, you need to know what people are consuming, right? It's one thing, the property, but actually how they're consuming will help you measure that.
So I think that runs through most of the presentation. We'll now move to kind of a Q&A session.
Right, okay, we're just going to go through the questions. So it's Mike Braggs asking the question. So we've had a question from Amy. How much does it know how much is on each item category? So I think that's the breakdown of when the usage in the online talks about, Doug. Is it just based on assumptions that between 5 and 7 p.m. It's probably cooking or something similar? How accurate is the system to pick up?
Yeah, really good question. We get this question a lot. So it's actually based on some machine learning. So we look at the energy consumption patterns, and we've trained this model on. We've got billions of data points in our system, and we also measured the model against some ground truth data. So we got some data with Schneider Electric, put tags on every single thing in some homes, and we measured the accuracy of our predictions versus the reality. So I think we were in the sort of high 80% accurate on that breakdown, which I think is pretty good. So it's not just guesswork, it is really based on the consumption pattern. So things like a fridge, for example, has a certain kilowatt hour range that it will always operate in, and they have a pattern that they'll always operate in. They tend to surge at different times of day and different ranges. So it's all that kind of data has gone into making that model. So it's fairly accurate. We don't try and be 100% accurate on that. The aim of it is more about what can a customer do from that. So we try and say here's what we think. We think 30% is going on your heating. So you should try and do something about heating next. Heating is obviously actually one where we're pretty accurate because it's a big chunk of the energy data. So for things like detecting that the heating is not on or off, that's a bit more easy to do.
Yeah, thank you. And a question from John. Can the app tell what tariff a customer is on, first part? And for example, if they are on a fixed 24-hour tariff, they're moving to energy use to a different time of day, that wouldn't make any difference to their bill.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think it depends where we get we typically work with utility companies, so we typically ingest like loads of tariff data. So normally our apps for an energy company would have tons of tariff data in there. And obviously we offer advice for customers who are on fixed, who are on market price tariffs, there's dynamic tariffs coming in. So we offer sort of solutions for all of those kinds of customers. In the open energy context, we can pull in some tariff information, and we have partners to get that tariff information. If we want to do tariff stuff with the Oxfordshire project, for example, that's pulling in tariff data.
And then I'll move to Nick Waldridge's question. Does the customer need to have an app for us to see the detail of energy usage, or do we just need consent?
The customer needs to give the consent. So the customer is the owner of that data, so it's their consent they have to give. But if they gave consent for you to collect that data and then use it on their behalf, no, they would not need to have that app. No. But obviously they get all the nice benefits from having it.
Question from Henry. What is the user retention engagement like for the app, say after 7 days, 30 days, 3?
Great question. So we get to a point of engagement. We track monthly active users, and monthly active users is typically so of anyone that's ever logged into the app once, typically we get between 50 and 70% will come back every month. So it's pretty high retention. I've got some data on cohorts on like analysis of how much comebacks every month. So I can share across afterwards. Yeah, we're quite proud on our monthly active users. Like monthly is the key like gold standard for us, because that's where those energy saving numbers came from. Like if someone's a monthly user, that's when we know that they'll be saving energy. So we address everything in our product around getting them to come back, regularly into the product.
So yeah, I think that the only thing left to do is to say thank you very much, Doug.
No, thank you for having me. No, it's really great to be here.
Could potentially be a very powerful tool. So yes, thank you very much for joining us. Till next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers.